Yes, and everybody, welcome back to YouTube. Welcome back to Threadman Chazza. I hope you're all well. Another very good result for Manchester United. We're going to cover the game from yesterday against West Ham United once again today. So yes, guys, get your comments in, get your likes in if you enjoy the video, and also please do subscribe if you're new. We're going to get straight into the game. There's a lot to discuss. Lots of good, lots of bad. Very, very interesting 90 minutes or 95 minutes overall. So we're going to get into it. So, yes, guys, very, very interesting. I wasn't going to go to the game, but I was invited to the game sort of last minute. So I decided to go and I really enjoyed it. Bit of a different seat. So I wasn't in my normal seat, but could see things slightly differently from a bit higher up, could see things tactically, position-wise. You know, you could see a bit more, although you're further away, I could see a few more details that caught my eye that I saw when I was rewatching the match as well. So let's talk about Manchester United's starting lineup then. So obviously we made a lot of changes. Maguire and Lindelof at centre-half, Malacia at left-back, Dalot at right-back, Sabitzer, McTominay and Bruno in midfield with Garnacho, Antony and Weghorst. So obviously there's lots of changes there. And I think we saw the impact of that, particularly in the first half. Now, we've been talking about this for quite a long time now in terms of Manchester United's build-up play. So we know Manchester United, ideally, when Christian Eriksen is fit, although he's not the ideal profile to play in that first phase of build-up, we like to have Christian Eriksen slightly deeper in build-up. Obviously, when Casemiro came in, things slightly changed. But Casemiro isn't the most comfortable either during build-up. But when we do play with Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno, it's not too much of a bad balance. We do lack a ball carrier in there. We do lack a midfielder who's an expert in the first phase in there, and we don't have that. But it's better than what we have, for example, for this particular game, where neither McTominay nor Sabitzer nor Fred nor Bruno are particularly comfortable with their back to goal, receiving passes in tight spaces, things like that in our own box, very, very deep. So very, very early on, we saw lots of examples of Manchester United struggling in terms of their build-up play once again. And we're going to talk about the consequences of that. So let's just have a quick look at Manchester United's shape then. So there's lots and lots of images here of the game, but this is something that Manchester United was sort of looking to build up in quite frequently. So we had Maguire and Lindelof, split centre halves with McTominay as the single pivot. Sometimes Dalot as well from the right back area came slightly more in field. Sometimes when Dalot went slightly wider on the right hand side, Malacia came in slightly more inverted into central areas to make a 3-1 shape. But it was often a 2-1 as well. So the most important thing is really that 1. And obviously, if you are looking to play a 2-1 or a 3-1, that one player that's in the single pivot role has got to be very, very comfortable in terms of receiving passes under pressure. You can see there, I think it's Souček, who's really, really high. So you've got Antonio sort of in between Maguire and McTominay, and then you've got Souček really, really high towards McTominay. And obviously, if you are a player playing in that particular position, you're probably going to get the ball fizzed into you quite quickly at times, and you need to be comfortable receiving the ball. You need to be able to turn away from pressure, or at least just keep the ball, even if you need to pass it backwards again, as long as you're just keeping the ball, at the worst case scenario. But the issue was that very, very often, and McTominay's received criticism of this in the past, he's not the best at finding those passing angles. So very, very often, we just saw Maguire and Lindelof, as we did often during the Ollie days, just passing the ball to each other at times. And this is obviously a massive, massive problem. Now, how did United sort of try and get around this problem? So they tried to get around this problem in a few different ways. So the first way is to actually use McTominay's best attribute as often as you can. So we know that McTominay's best on the ball attribute possibly is his ball carrying. So his strength when carrying the ball, he can carry the ball through the thirds. He can drive through. He can't dribble past players, but he can drive with the ball through the thirds. And as a sort of a number 8, not receiving as the deepest midfield player from the centre backs, but actually being that next step, that second phase player, if you like. So not just the first phase of build up where the centre halves are going to distribute the ball, but what's going to happen then? Who's then passing it on? Oh, he's gone on to McTominay. Now he can use his carrying, his ball carrying to drive us up the pitch. And he did this on one particular occasion really, really well. He also did it a couple of times in the final third as well. So you'll see here McTominay receives possession and he drives through the thirds, and obviously I think he then plays a pass out to Garnacho. So that's one way that we sort of tried to get out. I wouldn't really say it's a West Ham press. They were set up in sort of, I would say, a mid-block quite a few times in the game. I saw them sort of setting up in sort of a mid-block. Towards the end, they were in a deep block. At times, they did press us, but they never sustained their press at all very much. It was more of a mid-block for a lot of the game for West Ham. So by mid-block, we mean West Ham are not sitting extremely deep, looking to close off spaces completely. And also, they're not looking to press high as a unit and really cause United problems. They're somewhere in between the two, right? So they're looking to stay compact in the middle third of the pitch. And although they didn't press us all that highly, we still saw United making the odd mistake in build-up because we hadn't got the likes of Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro in there that we normally have for our build-up structure, right? So that's one way we tried to evade the press. Another few ways, so this is in the 21st minute, is when Harry Maguire played a really, really good pass through the lines. So we didn't do this all that often, through the lines into Weghorst. So Weghorst showed for the pass here. So you'll see here the two different images. This is the first image of Maguire about to pass the ball, and this is the second image of Weghorst receiving the ball, and then he flicked it on to Sabitzer, right? So you'll see there, that's another way that we try to sort of get around the problem of not having that. Obviously, the ideal solution is Frenkie de Jong, when we are struggling in our build-up play, somebody who can not just both carry the ball from very, very deep, but also pass the ball from very, very deep, receive the ball under pressure, etc. If we haven't got that player and we're not comfortable to play the ball through the lines, we've either got to play longer passes through the lines, like we did here with Weghorst, or we've got to carry the ball through the lines as best we can. So they're two of the options we took. We also took other options as well. So other things we tried to do, we tried to play around the West Ham press, so or around the West Ham block, if you like. So we've tried to do this before this season, where we look to fizz the ball out to our wide players. Obviously, we like to play with inverted fullbacks at times. So obviously, that then we try to isolate our wide players one-on-one against the opposition fullbacks. But obviously, we've seen a lot this season, if you can remember, against Leeds. Garnacho, when he does play on the left from the start against a fullback that's fully energized, that fullback is going to keep closing him down every single time. And Garnacho possibly still lacks, maybe you could argue, the physicality there from time to time. You see the physicality. He struggles sometimes to deal with those physical duels. So that's something that teams like to do against us, whether they're playing a high press, a mid, whether they're in a mid block. They like to stay really, really aggressive on United's wide players. And they also knew that Antony was a threat. So they looked to double and triple up on Antony at times. So even if that ball was played out to the wide areas, to try and get around the issue of not having the ideal build-up structure in the middle of the park, we couldn't really gain any. We couldn't really get in behind. We couldn't really cause West Ham too many. We had one or two chances in the first half, a couple of long shots for Antony, Weghorst's chance that was offside, Sabitzer's sort of long, sort of edge of the box shot, but we couldn't really get our wide players into the game too often. And that was because of the physicality, the aggression from West Ham's fullbacks, and also their wide players working really, really hard. Right, so they're the three options we had. We could either try and carry the ball through, we could either try and play that pass into Weghorst, or we could try and play out to the wide players. And the best of the three was probably Weghorst. So Weghorst had a massive, massive impact in that first half. not just in the build-up phase, but also in our approach play, in our attacking third as well. You'll see here the passes played into Weghorst, but I think by McTominay, who was carrying the ball, as I said, in the final third. He was not just doing it in our first phase, but also in the third phase, so in our attacking phase. And Weghorst here, lovely little touch into Sabitzer's feet. And this is Sabitzer's sort of great chance. It's not an easy chance, but it was a great shot and a good save by Areola. So Weghorst was having a big impact in that first half, not just in terms of at times helping us be an outlet during build-up, but also in the attacking third as well. Here again, Weghorst receives a pass and plays it out to Garnacho. The ball it's just sort of evaded Ben Johnson there, and it eventually goes out to Garnacho. It was another great pass. So Weghorst was having a big impact in that first half. And I've already showed this one. Yeah, so that's the second half. So yeah, so that was the first half. West Ham had the best chance of the game through Antonio. Other than Malacia, I would say other than Malacia, our other three defenders were all making defensive errors at times. Lindelof was probably the better of the two centre-backs defensively, but still wasn't particularly brilliant. And we just couldn't stop West Ham again on the counter, causing us problems. And Antonio obviously should have scored. Great save from De Gea, right? And then obviously in the second half, West Ham started really well again. So another chance for Antonio. Maybe he could have squared the ball. Maybe the runs could have been better from other players, but De Gea saves again. And that save was absolutely crucial that De Gea made. Because it keeps us in the game 1-0, right? So obviously West Ham get the goal, and then obviously De Gea makes a crucial save to make sure it doesn't go to 2-0. And then obviously we get United we obviously brought on Casemiro at halftime, we brought on Martinez, we brought on Rashford, we brought on Fred, etc. And the first few times Casemiro had the ball, he gave it away as well. So Casemiro wasn't perfect. Martinez got turned by Antonio as well. I think it was for that chance that Antonio missed, could have made it 2-0. So there was a bit of rustiness, a bit of lackadaisical activity from these United players, and I think we were off guard a little bit a few times at the start of that second half. We were caught off guard. However, as we've seen with Manchester United this season, as we've seen with Manchester United, sort of in the years gone by, Manchester United have found a way to win. And that's what Manchester United did here. How did we do that? I think there's many reasons. I think it is the mentality, the momentum that we have at the moment. So knowing that even though we got a disallowed goal through Casemiro, we're still going to try, we're still going to go, never give up, attitude, keep going. And that's what Manchester United did in the second half. They never gave up. I know it's a simple saying, but sometimes when the belief is sort of low and the confidence is low in the squad, in the camp, it's difficult to come back from these tough moments, but Manchester United certainly did. It's also, I think, individual players coming onto the pitch and making a difference, not just with their aura, but also their quality. So we saw Martinez and Casemiro coming on. Our build-up instantly gets better, more comfortable players. Casemiro, more comfortable under pressure than McTominay is, not afraid to receive between the lines, not afraid to play fast forward passes out to fullbacks, out to wide players, into midfield players in front of him. Rashford as well, the threat in behind, forcing West Ham to drop their lines further deep, more deep. And then you've got the fact that you can sustain more attacks because West Ham's defensive line is pushed further back. And then I think coupled with the mentality that this team have got, the momentum we've got at the moment, the impact from the subs, I think also the players that were already on the pitch. Malacia in possession didn't have a brilliant game, but out of possession, Malacia was brilliant. Out of possession, Sabitzer did quite well. Weghorst, his work rate. Who else I was going to mention? Garnacho, his impact in possession. So let's talk about Garnacho actually. So I think in the first half he struggled, but in the second half, again, as I said, efficiency in the second half. Alejandro Garnacho, he's so much more efficient when he's playing against tired legs, tired minds. So it's not just physically, but mentally. When opposition defenders are not just physically, the energy levels are dropping, but also the concentration levels are dropping. That's when Garnacho works best. He earns a free kick for United here. from Paqueta's challenge. And then obviously he gets an unbelievable goal with this finish from this angle, which is really, really fantastic finish. But it wasn't just that. It was his spirit to never give up, constantly going at defenders both ways, both to the byline and inside. Kept looking to put crosses into the box. And Garnacho, Weghorst as well. His pressing, he was involved in all 3 goals, you could argue. Our first goal, Weghorst causes a bit of havoc, own goal. The second goal, Weghorst's shot is blocked. This is where it comes out to Garnacho, who scores. Our third goal, Weghorst pressing, causes the ball to sort of land at Fred's feet. And Fred obviously makes it 3-1. So Weghorst, again, in the second half, had a massive, massive impact. So Manchester United have once again shown their ability to win football matches when they're not playing well. And not playing well, I think, as I said after the Carabao Cup final against Newcastle, not playing well can mean, what does that actually mean? And I think against Newcastle, I thought defensively we still played well. I thought as a unit we played well. We defended well. I thought in possession against Newcastle we were poor at times in the second half, giving the ball away too easy. In the first half as well we were, but obviously when you've already got a lead, we obviously got the 2-0 lead through Casemiro, and then obviously Rashford's goal that was deflected, it went in. And you've got the 2-0 lead. Obviously it's more important. This is what I was saying after the Newcastle game. A lot of people I saw saying, Man United played poorly and Newcastle were brilliant. Well, that's not so much the case, because Manchester United got the 2 goals and they didn't need to play. Okay, they could have done better with the ball in terms of the counter-attacks. We could have maybe scored 1 or 2 more goals against Newcastle. But actually, it didn't really matter, because the most important thing is to make sure we don't concede 2 goals, because if we didn't concede 2 goals, we won the game. But here against West Ham, I think you could say we didn't play well in terms of our defensive game as well, in terms of our rest defense. So our structure when we're in possession, how are we set up? If the opposition are going to counter us, are we ready for that counter attack? And I think individually and stylistically, we just weren't ready. And I think other than Malacia, who won 8 out of his 9 ground duels in the game, which is quite remarkable, our other players, our other defenders in the first half in particular, didn't react to things quickly enough. We know Maguire struggles when we're in transition. And I just don't think we played well it's sort of in and out of possession. But we still, I think, in the last 10 or 15 minutes, we showed our resilience. We showed our quality at times. But I think it was mostly down to the work rate, the resilience of this team. And Erik ten Hag, once again, with his substitutions. So that's it, guys. I think there's not a lot in terms of the setups of the team. Tactically, there's not a lot you can talk about in terms of overloads and underloads and things like that. There's not too many fancy words you can really put on this. I think one reason why West Ham had a lot of sort of how West Ham made this an awkward game, and one reason why they sort of had maybe more of the play than we expected, was because they made this game more of an individual battle in there. So I think West Ham, we know a lot of their players are physically strong. They're very, very good in duels. And I think because they knew we wouldn't be able to get out the press easily, or play out from the back easily. I think West Ham knew if we could get the ball out wide, they can handle Antony and Garnacho, and they did in that first half, in all fairness. So I think that's maybe one point you could make. Maybe tactically, West Ham trying to force the ball out wide into those wider areas and double or triple up on our wide players, be physical against our wide players, not give them any time, and then press in those wide areas. So I think that's something that West Ham did do quite frequently. So that's maybe something you could bring up. But formation-wise, there's not too much you can talk about, really. I think it was more, if you are to analyse that game, I think you've got to analyse it from an individual player sort of perspective, what those individual players did better in the second half, or what the players that came on did better, and also the manager making those substitutions and making those changes. So that's what I'd say, guys. And once again, another brilliant win. We're in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. We'll hopefully be back with a live show at some point. I'm not sure whether it's going to be tomorrow or at the weekend, but I'm going to try and bring another show this week if we can. If not, I'll be back next week after the Liverpool game. Obviously, we've got a big game on Sunday against Liverpool. So as always, guys, please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Let's try and get 20 likes if we can. And I really appreciate all the support as always, guys. So I really appreciate that. And yes, guys, take care, and another win for Manchester United.